Thank you, the administration team. It's time to start our webinar. Let me take this opportunity to thank everybody who has made time to this September webinar, in particular to thank our speakers today, Professor Mtongu from Nairobi. I'm very indebted for your availability for this session. Madam Agnes, thank you again for making time to join this webinar today. Our discussion today, we're going to deal with emotional intelligence during the interview. There are many instances in time when you seek the job and the interview panel has some emotional intelligence question, apart from the technical questions that you probably learned at school. And today we are going to be sharing experience of recruitment and interview, particularly on what questions are asked and how do you prepare for that, and how do you position yourself when you're already in the interview room. Maybe some of you may not have had opportunity to participate in the previous webinar. We have dealt with the subject of emotional intelligence for 3 months now, almost, and we have dealt with what emotional intelligence is. We have dealt with the components of emotional intelligence. We have also dealt with how to improve emotional intelligence. But just to set the background, I would like to ask the course administrator to present a summary of what emotional intelligence is and the components of emotional intelligence. And then it will be diving in directly to discuss about emotional intelligence during your job interview session. Course administrator, Mr. Jonas, please.
Thank you, and good evening to all. I'll very briefly take us through a short summary of what we have been discussing for the past about 4 or 5 webinars. And so emotional intelligence or emotional quotient is the ability to identify and manage your emotions and express them in ways that are respectful and helpful to those around. And the importance of emotional intelligence, very few to state, are it allows one to develop and maintain important and productive relationships. It helps to navigate complex social situations, it helps one to manage their own emotions as well. And so we delved into components of emotional quotient with our speakers, and we talked about self-awareness, managing emotional responses, empathy, and the ability to maintain healthy relationships. And so the last thing that I would touch on is the main aspect of emotional intelligence is self-awareness. This is because it involves the attitude towards different situations, constructive feedback, and being open to feedback and assessing your own capabilities. As one of our speakers said in the webinar, she usually had something called me time, where she would think about how she is, what she can do to become a better person. And so that is basically what emotional intelligence is. It makes us better people, helps us in our interpersonal relationships and even our intrapersonal relationships at best. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you so much for that summary. So today we are going to be dealing with a very important subject. You know, you go to the interview, there are technical questions that you are asked. Maybe you're an engineer, or you're an accountant, or you are a HR, or you are a project management specialist, etc. Those are the technical questions. But in addition to that, there are emotional intelligence questions. They are normally called social skills questions. And today, our experts are going to be speaking to us about what do the interview panel really want, and what questions are asked, and how do you prepare for that. And I would like to begin the session by saying that I have searched online, and I have seen this statement that I would like Prof to comment. And Agnes, and you first say hello to the audience, and then you go ahead to answer, to give your comment to the questions. So emotional intelligence can be one of the most important factor when hiring a candidate. Emotional intelligence can be one of the very important factor when hiring a candidate for any position. Why is emotional intelligence one of the most important factors to hiring for any position? I'll begin with Agnes. You say hello, and then you go on answering the question, and then the Prof will say hello, introduce yourself, and then you go on to answering the question. The floor is now yours.
Agnes, you are muted.
Thank you, Prof. Okay. My name is Agnes Kisala. I'm honored to be your speaker for this session today. In today's fast-paced business environment, technical skills alone are no longer enough. Emotional intelligence is important for navigating workplace relationship, collaboration, and leadership. Okay. Why emotional intelligence is important in workplace? Let's talk in aspect of leadership role. You cannot negotiate emotional intelligence. Teams need leaders who can emphasize, communicate well, and inspire others. Even at all levels, emotional intelligence enhance collaboration, resilience, and innovation. Employees with strong emotional intelligence can positively impact organization culture and overall success. Prof, can we then? Prof?
Okay, thank you, Agnes. My name is Dr. Zabron Vudi Motongu, working from Nairobi, and working in consultancy with Bujari Leadership Training Institute. So we have launched this together for us to be able to equip our people. Why is emotional intelligence important for job seekers and also for employers? One of the things you look at when you talk about emotional intelligence is that most companies are looking for people who are going to understand their values, people who are going to stay with them longer, not people who are just going to work for 1 or 2 months and then leave the company, because that will not be value addition to the company or to the organization that they are going to work for. So for that reason, then, they want people who can be able to take action-oriented people. They want people who will be results-oriented. That means they can be able to do the relevant follow-up things and also be able to use their self-aware and be able to demonstrate that they have the potential to work and perform in the future, not just the present, but continue even in the future. So with that goes and tells us that as candidates attending such interviews, then we must be aware of our strengths and weaknesses, because that is one thing the employer really wants to find out about us, and also whether we are able to control our thinking and acting in the context of the employer's values, not deviating from the values that are set by the employers, and also avoiding judging others so quickly that we become people who cannot be able to work with the team that we have been joined together to work with. So it is very, very important to help us to be connected socially and be able to develop our relationships with others. And that can only be done if we are emotionally intelligent, or if we are able to understand our emotional intelligence levels. Daktari, I don't know whether I have given a highlight on the issue.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So we're talking about beyond the technical skills, which a candidate certainly graduated from a reputable university with a very good GPA. We are talking now about beyond the technical skills, and we are talking about the social skills. And I looked up online and I see social skills, as you may all appreciate, they are required for you to be able to connect with others. But they are also required for you to be able to interact with others. And finally, they are required for you to be able to work with others in the team. And I think the first speaker puts it, it says, be able to build relationships with your co-worker, you know, but to be able to inspire others and provide leadership. Yeah, that's why these are the things that makes emotional intelligence, you know, very important. I would like to go to the next level of a discussion. How do we prepare? How do we prepare, or how do I prepare? I'm going for an interview. How do I prepare to be able to respond to emotional intelligence related questions? Feel free to also give some examples of the questions that are asked. But also when I am in the interview room itself, you know, how do I position myself to be able to convince the candidates, to convince the interview panel that I am the person they have been looking for. Whoever wants to start, please feel free to ask a question in the chat box. If you have any question, please write your question in the chat box, and you can direct your question to one of the speaker, or you can just write your question in general, and I'll be very glad to give the question to our esteemed speakers to respond to. So, Agnes, maybe you want to begin. How do I prepare for the interview to respond to emotional intelligence related questions? And once I am in the interview room, how do I position myself? The floor is now yours.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Buchari, so much. When preparing to respond to questions about emotional intelligence in an interview, it's important for the candidate to demonstrate self-awareness, empathy, adaptability, and strong interpersonal skills. Okay, let's look at the 10 common emotional intelligence questions rated with guidance on what a candidate should say and what not to say. For example, there is these questions. Let's say they will ask you, tell me about a time when you faced a conflict at work. How did you handle it? What to say? First of all, you have to focus on listening actively to all parties involved, seeking to understand their perspectives and working towards a mutual beneficial solution. Mention how you manage your emotions and remain professional. For example, you can say, I listened to both sides, stayed calm, and suggested a compromise that worked for everyone. And please do not say or do not avoid blaming others or saying you ignored the conflicts until it went away. Do not show defensive or negativity. For example, do not reply, I just avoided the person until things cool down. Don't do that in that questions. You need to be responsible. Don't avoid blaming others. And they can also ask you, how do you handle stress or pressure? In these questions, you need to mention techniques like prioritizing tasks, staying organized, and taking breaks to manage stress. Emphasize remaining calm under pressure and using stress to stay motivated. For example, you can say, I manage stress by staying organized, breaking tasks into manageable pieces. You put your tasks in milestones and taking short breaks when needed. And sometimes you need to celebrate the achievement. What you are not allowed to say, don't simply say that you get overwhelmed or frustrated easily, or say you never experience stress, which may sound unrealistic. Example, don't say, I don't handle stress very well, but I try to power through. Another questions they will ask you maybe describe a time when you had to adapt to a significant change at work. Here they want to measure the flexibility, adaptability. What to say highlights your flexibility and positive attitude towards change. Discuss how you were able to adapt quickly and maintain productivity. For example, when we switched to a new system, I quickly learned the new software and helped my colleague to adapt. What's not to say, don't mention that you resisted the change. There's other stuff they resist to change or struggle to adapt without eventually finding a solution. Example, do not say, I found it real hard to adjust and slow down my work. Don't do that. There's another question. They will ask you, how do you handle feedback, especially if it is critical? Sometimes you get very hard, very critical. Let's say you are a leader, a manager, and you got a very critical, a very challenging questions. What to say? Mention what you welcome feedback, take it as an opportunity to improve, reflect on it with a growth mindset, discuss a specific example where feedback help you develop. Example, I see feedback as a tool for growth. I also receive feedback on my presentation skills and it helped me to improve significantly. Please avoid, do not say you feel defensive or take feedback personal. Do not take things personal. For example, do not say, I don't like criticism and tend to get upset when it's not fair. Do not say that. Prof, can you give more examples of interview questions, and we think which words to say and examples and what not to say during the emotional intelligence questions. You are welcome, Prof, for any addition. Thank you.
Thank you, Agnes. You have handled it very well, and you have gone through most of the questions that come across when people are sitting for interviews. But I want to remind the panelists, those who are not the people in the discussion and inside the process, that the reason why you are in the interview panel is to market yourself, to show that you are the best candidate for the job that you are being interviewed for. Remember, almost all the people who are called for the interview have the technical skills, like the moderator of the session has already said. So you are there to market yourself and give that unique thing that makes you different from other candidates, and that which makes the organization to hire you and not the other candidates whom you are competing with. For example, if a question like this comes to you, tell me about a time when your emotions got the better of you in a professional setting. What happened and how did you manage the situation? First of all, you have already been trapped in answering the question professionally. So you have been given a lead, which you may not know, that they want a professional answer from you that helps them to understand that you have what it takes to be what it means to be self-regulating. So they are looking at something that helps them to see you are able to do self-regulation. And in such a case, then, you do not rush to answer the question. You think about the question and position yourself in a way that you attract the attention of all the panelists. Make sure you are set to give them the answer they are looking for. And what happens in most cases when such a question comes, you may become nervous because you are wondering, why are they asking me such a huge question at the middle of an interview? Then what you do is you go through the points you have in your hand and try to be very, very composed, such that you don't end up not being able to respond. And when you are doing that, make sure that you are the only ones they can think about during that process. So if they tell you that, tell us about a time when your emotions got the better of you in a professional setting. Then they're asking you whether, have you ever been annoyed during a working relationship? And how did you handle it? So that's where now you showcase your ability to handle anger, to control yourself. And you say, yes, this has happened to me. When working with colleagues, I have experienced several occasions when my emotions get out of control, but I have always tried to control myself in order to accommodate my colleagues' questions and march forward with them. Because I'm supposed to be working with them, we are supposed to work in unity and achieve a common objective for the organization. Remember, you are not going to work alone. You are going to work with other people. And they want to test whether you have the ability to work with the team, or you are going to be the know-it-all person who will be thinking you are the only one who knows what to be done in that organization. Again, you can also be asked a question like, can you tell me about a moment when you had to deliver bad news to a team or individual? How did you handle it? So what they are testing in such a case is whether you have a well-developed empathy system in your mind. And you don't just like go telling people, oh, excuse me, I have been told that your sister passed away this morning. You can imagine the commotion you cause in that organization. So you must prepare the person. Like, you could start by asking, did you have a sick sister, or was anybody in your family admitted in a hospital? Or have you heard of any emergency that occurred in your family? And then you continue with the process of preparing the person to hear the news you want to release to them. And finally, you can tell them, I have received some news that need your attention. And before we continue, we would want to sit together and discuss how we are going to take you home, because we can't let you to go home alone. We want to walk with you, and we want to go home with you. And by the time you are telling them this, your empathy level has already been raised, and they have already understood that you are going to pass some bad news to them. So in such a case, then, the employer or the prospective employer will know that you have grown in terms of empathy, in terms of social awareness in that aspect. That's what I want to say for now, but we can give other examples as we continue. Thank you.
Thank you once again, our esteemed speakers, for the enlightenment and the wisdom that you are sharing. Bujali High Impact Leadership Institute is committed to provide tools and knowledge to ensure that we create the high impact leaders and being able to navigate through the volatile environment that we have. And you will understand and appreciate that emotional intelligence is becoming of a very high value, because the work environment has become very volatile and has changed quite dramatically. And we have to adapt in many settings than the previous time. When I started working in the office, we were sharing a desktop, 3 of us. So 3 of us were using one desktop. Now, every person has a laptop, and we are not necessarily have to work in person in the office. There's a lot of adaptability that has happened. There's a question in the chat, and please do drop a question in the chat for our speaker to be able to elaborate much more. The more questions that you ask, the more knowledge that comes out. The question is, how do I answer a question like, tell us about your strength and weakness? How do I answer a question like, tell us your strength and weakness? This question is not directed to anybody, so I will allow each of you to contribute to that question. Prof. Mutongo, maybe you want to start, and then Agnes will come later.
Okay, as I think about it, I've just opened the question right now, but this is a very tricky question because sometimes when people are told to say about their strengths, they quickly rush to start narrating about their professional training. And they start saying, I have this degree, I have this degree, and I have this and that. And to tell you the truth, that's already known because you have already sent your CV and they have already looked at your certificates the moment you have sat down there in that interview panel. So what in actual fact they are looking for is what would be your contribution to this organization? Like one of the things you could say is, I am very happy working with other people because it gives me joy to see other people's contributions intertwined with my contributions. So that says that you have a strength in teamwork. And sometimes you are supposed to say the weaknesses in terms of strengths, other than saying this is a weakness. Like you can say, I am a person who cannot leave office if I have not accomplished the task for the day. But I always plan my time in a way that I'll be able to accomplish the tasks of the day. So instead of remaining in the office all the time, I try to balance and do those tasks the first thing in the morning the following day when I come. But I go with the burden that I have not completed my task. So it is my weakness that I feel unaccomplished if I have not completed the tasks for the day. But with the proper planning, I know I can achieve all of them. Agnes, if you can add something to that.
Okay.
Interesting. Agnes, maybe you have some additions there.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Bujari. Thank you so much, Dr. Mouton. In addition from that, when the interview asks you to describe your weakness and strength, what you really need to say, first of all, under strength, you need to highlight strength that reflect emotional intelligence, such as communication, teamwork, or empathy. For example, you can say, one of my strengths is my ability to stay calm under pressure and manage difficult situations effectively. I'm also very empathetic, which helps me work well with diverse teams. Please avoid saying or what to say, avoid to acknowledge a little, but manage weakness and show how you are working to improve. Under weakness, you acknowledge because everybody have the weakness. So others, they do not acknowledge. You need to acknowledge and show how you are working to improve that weakness. For example, one area, you can say one area I'm working on is being motion. I have been focusing maybe on speaking up more during meetings and I have made a lot of progress. What not to say, don't give a fake weakness. There are some people, they give fake weakness. Maybe example, they said, I work too hard. That is a fake weakness. Avoid weakness that could seriously harm your job performance. Example, I struggle with time management and often miss deadlines. That will not make you a good candidate. So don't give a fake weakness. I work too hard until I'll finish my work. Don't do that. Thank you.
Great. So I think there's a complementarity between what Prof says and what Agnes says. Don't give a fake weakness. When you are asked about the strength, as far as emotional intelligence is related, always think about, what makes you good, what sets you as a distinct person, differentiates you and others. And I think one of the pillar of emotional intelligence, as course administrator says, is ability to be self-aware. So self-awareness means being able to understand yourself, but also being able to understand the others and therefore being able to work with them. I do hope that the responses that has been given, provides a breadth of the understanding on how would you respond to that question. Always think about improvement, and think about organizing yourself, to be able to do better. We call those areas of personal development. So yeah, thank you for the response. Please do drop any question that you may have in the chat box, or raise up your hand, and I'll be very glad to give you the space to speak. Write a question in the chat or raise up your hand, and I'll be very happy to give you the chance to speak. Our discussion is, what are the recruitment team, what are they looking for when they're interviewing, particularly on the emotional intelligence part. And let me repeat again what I said before, that technical skills are okay for many people, but social skills, emotional intelligence, it's normally the area that is of contention. And so that's why we are discussing this. Please write any question that you may have in the chat box or raise up your hand. And I'll be very happy to give you the floor to ask your question. Please write your question in the chat or, raise up your hand. Prof, let me come to you again. Give me an insight. I am in the interview room and I feel a lot of pressure. And I want to show my ability to regulate my emotions. What are the tactics that you may give me to handle the stress and the adrenaline that's increasing in my blood? Karibu.
Thank you, Professor. Thank you for that question. That's a very, very good question, because many people, when they go to an interview panel, they go there prepared to fight. And so that raises a lot of adrenaline and a lot of sweating, a lot of expectations, raising your own expectation above the level even of the people conducting the interview. But there are some of the skills that you may want to develop and use, or even think about when you go to an interview panel. And one of the aspects is to use some kind of gestures and keep eye contact with the panelists, because the moment you look at them directly into their eyes, they see confidence, in you. And if you keep on looking down and behaving like you are not sure what you want to say, then many of them now start feeling like they should end the interview with you and get another candidate. Keep smiling occasionally so that you keep them attracted towards you, so that they feel that they are interacting with you. And also be sure to be disciplined. Keep your phone silent or even not in sight when you are doing an interview. Then again, there are things you have to think about. Think about what you want to say. Don't just give an answer. So again, we are advised that you do not think as you talk. You think first, then you talk. Otherwise, you mix up your thinking and your talking, and you may not give a concrete answer to the point, to the question that has been asked. Another thing that is quite assumed to be obvious is that you are listening to the panelists as they ask the questions. But sometimes it's not obvious because there is a lot of noise coming in your ears, in your heart, asking yourself, am I going to get this job? Are there better candidates than me? Then for you to overcome that, think critically of the question which is being asked, and again, be mindful to respond to their question in a better way. Don't just give an answer because it is asked. And again, don't say, I don't know. That question is not in, I didn't think about that question. Think about it and give an answer. Then also, there is an aspect of being open-minded when you are dealing with interviewers. Be open-minded to them, have an open and frank conversations with the interviewer. Make sure they understand you. Make sure that you reach out to them because they are there to hear you and you are there to answer to their questions. So they love to listen to your responses to their questions with supported evidence. Again, look for evidence. When they ask you, have you ever done a job like this before? If you have, please give an example of what you did. If you are a computer technician, say there was a time I was called by my supervisor to handle an issue on mixed data. And I searched through and I was able to find the data and reorganize it. And my supervisor was very happy. So by doing that, you are being interactive and you are also highlighting some of the positive aspects of the result you will be bringing into that organization. Then have a positive attitude all through. Develop it. If you are a gloomy person, that day you must cultivate your mood so that you are able to be to listen and also to respond in a jovial manner, so that you are also listening to yourself and you are also giving a better answer to the interview panelist, which gives you a better performance score if you are able to relate with them at a personal level, because that also shows that your emotional level has grown with time. Again, you can also share your developing plan. What are your plans to develop in the company? How do you want to grow? Which skills are you bringing in this company? And how do you want to grow them further? For example, if you are taking up any certifications related to your field, this shows you are a self-motivated person. Like you may say, if you are interviewing like for an account job and you have a bachelor's in finance and accounts, and you have not done your certification courses yet, tell them, I am improving my skills in the area of accountancy because I'm doing my CPA-K, which would add value to my contributions in this job. They have already shortlisted you with your degree, but they want to know, is that all in that aspect? Then you can also let the interviewer know that you learn from your mistakes. Make sure not to be a know-it-all attitude person. Make sure they understand that you learn from mistakes. And if anything happens within the processes of your duty, then you are able to correct the mistakes and move on. So that shows a bit of flexibility in terms of how you can learn and improve in terms of the organizational values and requirements of the organization. That flexibility is very, very important, because until you talk about it, they will not know. Other candidates may answer the questions very well, but if they don't show that level of flexibility, you'll be far much ahead of them. So please remember that whenever you go to an interview. Then remember, it is a two-way conversation. You are not giving a lecture. You are interacting with the panelists. And you are also at liberty to ask a question. Though you should not ask a question that will tie you or that will show that you are ignorant about the organization. Like if somebody asks you, how much do you want us to pay you? Don't tell them you have a scale. Because that's what we usually say most of the times. They want to have an indication of your value. So if you don't have a value, then don't go for the interview. So you can say something like, where I have been working, this is what I have been earning, and I'm looking for improvement in my growth, so that automatically they will know you will not take less than 20,000 if that is what you are being given before, but not telling them that they have scales. Suppose their scales are indicating 10 and you are giving them a pay slip of that 1,000. Do you think they will even look at you? So it's important to be yourself, be composed, and show that you have value. In a nutshell, what you are trying to say is that you want to move up the career ladder. Emotional intelligence is a crucial asset to showcase in an interview. Make sure you showcase. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Prof. I think you have given us much more than we probably expected. Thank you very much, and that's very much appreciated. We're running short of time. We'll be closing soon. If you have any question, any comment, please drop your question in the chat. If you have any question you want to speak, please raise up your hand. Related to things, related to what Prof just said, how much would you like to pay? In some other conversation, somebody says one way to respond to that question is saying, I have searched for related position and the payment ranges between this and this. And I'm happy, with this kind of range. So they know where your range is. But Prof, I wanted to ask you another question. This is an emotional intelligence question. Yes. I was recruiting one time, and I asked this question to a candidate, and I said, where do you see yourself 5 years to come from now? And this lady says, 5 years to come from now, I will have graduated my master's degree, and I will be doing a research in a reputable institution. My institution is not doing research.
Yes.
Would you hire that a person? And if not, why?
It's a very tricky question, Daktari, because when you go for an interview, you need to do a background check of what that organization is recruiting for. If they are recruiting for a HR position, all your answers should be focused to that area. And if you think of growth, think about growth in that area. Like if you enter as a HR assistant, then you'll be telling them 5 years from now, I would want to see myself having grown with the company from a HR assistant, maybe to a HR officer or to a HR manager, if that position will not have been occupied by the time I am 5 years in this organization. And my goal is to work for this organization and grow with the organization. Don't start telling them that you are going to do your master's, your PhD. Those are irrelevant for the job at this moment. But if you are employed as an assistant lecturer, listen carefully here. If you go to a university and you are employed as an assistant lecturer, the expectation is that 5 years along the road, you will have achieved your master's and PhD. If you came in with a master's, the minimum time expected is 5 years for you to get a PhD to become a full lecturer. So in such a case now, you can say, in 5 years' time, I see myself growing from an assistant lecturer to a full lecturer, having acquired a PhD, because this university is also offering PhDs, and I wish to be allowed to register for the PhD as I continue working. Thank you.
Great. So I think the very important point is you are being recruited, you have to indicate the growth in the area, and you grow with the organization, you grow with the company, that you grow with your employer. Very important. So I think we are coming to an end. I do not see any question around here. No question that I see here. I think we'll be closing our session now. Let me thank everybody who has made time to this webinar today. Let me thank Prof. Mutongo for all the wisdom. Thank you, Madam Agnes, also for the contribution. I would like to give you half a minute each if there's any other thing that you want to say to the audience before we close. Agnes, welcome if you have something to say for like half a minute, and then we are closing.
Okay. Okay. I was point concerning the pressure during in the interview. What should you do? I think I didn't get the chance to talk. I think one of the things you should do is to break down the questions. When you are under pressure, it's okay you need to admit, yes, and feeling a bit nervous, it's okay, because you are in the interview. You need to calm down and to take a moment to gather your thoughts, and you need to break in the questions into small parts to focus on addressing one aspect of the questions at a time. So don't worry, keep calm, make sure you break the questions. That's I want to add in the question concerning working under pressure. I thank you all for attending this webinar. Karibuni to the next webinar. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Agnes. Prof, any final point before we close?
I want to encourage the participants to start working on their confidence for the next promotion, which I know is coming very soon. When you go to that interview, ask them what they want you to contribute other than just the basics of the job they are employing you for. Thank you.
Thank you very much, audience, and thank you, our esteemed speakers, for the session today. We look forward to see you in the next webinar. We are thinking about organizing a course to prepare candidates for job interview. We will probably send the advert when we are ready, and I hope to see you next month. Thank you and have a good time.
Thank you. Bye-bye.